Back at the same spot here where Shaky breathed one of its last breaths. It got us back out of the road there into Mesquite, just somewhere over there, and died forever in Mesquite. And I donated the junk vehicle. Got a new truck here. I'm sure it can get up this, but might as well walk, just not to push things. It's not a massive truck, but today's goal is to get deeper into the range there. Probably experience another ecological transition above the PJ here, and therefore see a lot of new plants, hopefully. Got a couple of subshrubs in the Caryophyllaceae here, almost otherwise entirely herbaceous family, although other members of Aramogony here do get perennial bases, woody bases at least, especially in more alpine and higher elevation environments. This one, Aramogony macrodinea, is a perennial subshrub as an adaptation to basically living in the Mojave Desert. Although we are in the PJ zone here, Pinyon Juniper zone, there's a much smaller clump. Nonetheless, subshrubiness or subshrubbery is certainly a helpful adaptation towards tolerating the conditions, or even thriving in the conditions of the Mojave Desert and other dry lands. Orobanche of some. These are parasitic, as you can see by the lack of chlorophyll. Parasitic on... Someone's interrupting me. Parasitic on sagebrush, Artemisia tridentata, as well as a number of other species of shrub and tree, I believe. Those flowers blending in quite well with the dirt of the road here. So I didn't really notice them at first, but they are thriving along this roadside. They're found along with sagebrush throughout, it seems. Quite glandular. And flies are landing on these things. Maybe they have a carrion scent, I don't know. Pollination biology is. Yeah, it doesn't smell all that pleasant, actually, so maybe that's the strategy. This plant is essentially just, well, let's look at it since I'm collecting it anyway. It's a big old thickened parasitic root structure. See that? And it connects to the sagebrush through such structures, and it's otherwise a leafless plant, so it has a big parasitic root system and flowers, and that's the whole strategy, whole life of this plant. Pretty interesting, all things considered. Those roots are thick, they're a bit fleshy, and they go far, far down. Again, I'm making a formal botanical collection of this, so I don't just advocate for ripping plants out of the ground. This is going in the museum forever, though. Fallujah paradoxa here. People call this Apache plume. So it's fairly commonly known to a lot of people out in the western United States, I'd say, as that. I haven't seen it in these mountains before though, so not common here, but common across parts of the western United States, especially at more middle elevations like we're at here, around 5,000 feet. Very montane place, as you can see. Pinus monophila is a dominant species right now. Also got Juniperus osteosperma everywhere. And the Fallujah just sitting here in this part of this wash. Never seen it anywhere else, having explored this place pretty extensively. There's a rather healthy patch here. Closer look at those Fallujah flowers. Very rosaceous in character. 5 showy petals and numerous stamens. Getting into the upper reaches of this wash here, there's no water as there was lower down, but there's plenty of cottonwood trees. They're a bit stunted. They're not looking too good. None of them are really that big. I mean, that's a comparatively small one out there. But tells you that if you dug into the wash, you'd come across water sooner than later. If it really came down to that, if the thirst level were extreme, you'd stand a good chance of just digging down here and getting some water sooner than later. Cottonwoods disappeared a while ago. Saw a tamarix, which also indicates water. And the wash was pretty dry for a while. And the soil here in the center of the wash looks pretty moist, and furthermore there's wet green mosses in the bottom, which is pretty interesting. Just a tiny little pool of moisture there. Large wasp there, and we'll see what's up ahead. The canyon's been increasingly narrowing and hemming in. Just ran into one little pool sustaining numerous tadpoles, and I'm afraid they're not going to develop by the time that dries up, since this is the hot, dry season, May to June here. And where are they gonna go once they hatch? They'll have quite a journey down canyon, or there's something wetter up ahead. Not sure yet. Rocks are beautiful here in any case. Still mosses and crevices of the wash. In gorgeous colors. So the canyon's become a bit wet again. Not only are the pines and junipers extremely tall in the gully here, but Populus fremontii, cottonwood, has reappeared, and there's even some anomalous cattails, typha, right here, which tells you there's water here always, basically. The base of this drop. I don't know how I'm gonna get around that, actually, now that I think about it. I've got a mini moss wall on this drop here. It's pretty dry right now, though. It's quite a bit of water for a canyon without a named spring higher up. So that was a hummingbird feeding on red-flowered Aquilegia formosa right there. The canyon's becoming so wet, so narrow, and so lush that it's nearly becoming impassable. Things are pretty thick in the canyon at this point. Between oaks, willows, manzanitas, roosts, chaparral, it's pretty difficult. The horses have somewhat cut a path through, but you still got all these blockages like this because people are taller than horses. So it's passable, but very, very thick. They must come down here for water quite a bit because they have fairly distinct paths running through here. You can see how thick things are up on the slopes too. But then it's always stuff like this to pass through. It's a nice buttercup. That's not really a buttercup. This is Halerpestes cymbalaria. A lot of people do call it a buttercup, ranunculus, but it's morphologically and phylogenetically distinct. And a friend and I actually are working on a big research paper about this group at the moment. So Halerpestes cymbalaria, the genus Halerpestes, it's in Eurasia and South America and here in North America. I don't think it occurs in Africa or Australia though, at least not naturally. Small group, not that many species, fewer than 20 worldwide. Strictly aquatic lineages like that, widespread aquatic lineages, they don't tend to be too speciose since they disperse well and thereby any mechanisms of speciation are hindered by basically continuous gene flow. And Halerpestes cymbalaria is very widespread across North America and beyond, in fact. So it's not really special here in Nevada, but it's only representative of the genus here. And you can distinguish it by a buttercup, by the scapose nature of the plant there. Flowering stalk is basically leafless. Various pockets of water have now coalesced upstream to form an actual streamlet. Got flowing water here. And then basically an unnamed canyon. It's called Garden Canyon after Garden Spring below, but there's no named stream or no named springs up here on any maps I've looked at. After a little bit of calm section, back in full and thicket mode, but this time got wild grape vitis and new species of oak, Quercus campbellii, form in the thickets. And you have to be bullish about getting through this kind of stuff. It's a lot of work, and can't really do it with a camera. The gully's down over there. I couldn't deal with it anymore. Too choked with vegetation, so I saw some comparatively gentle terrain to the west, which is kind of where I was headed anyway, to the northwest there. West, is that away? And here we got a pinyon, oak, juniper, savanna ecosystem with lots of prickly pears in the openings and understories and such. Much better walking than that vegetation choked gully. Still a lot of chaparral type stuff here, so it's not exactly like walking on a trail, but a lot easier than that gully. Still got lots of ceanothus and such around too. Arctostaphylos. That's the kind of place it is. Annual Eriogonums doing quite well. Here's a pretty good view of a significant slice of the study area. All the lower elevations there. The highest elevations partly there. What we can't see are the actual highest elevations that way, but we'll be getting a view pretty soon. I'm following this ridge, dropping into a canyon to get some water, and then wrapping back out towards the lower deserts there before it gets really, really hot. Starting basically tomorrow afternoon and holding forth for several days, so gotta be out of here tomorrow at a decent hour. Okay, there's a portion of the highest point, and so we're still missing section back there and on the east or other side of the high point here. And that's pretty much the extent of the area, but the highest and wettest places are hidden up in those high points more, and on the other side of this ridge. Here's the high point linked to the current ridge I'm on. Should be a pinyon juniper forest up here, but as you can see, got more of a chaparral of oaks, arctostaphylos, and ceanothus, things like that. It's due to the fact that this is still a recovering burn area, as we can see by all the tree skeletons. So we're well into the ecological succession phase where long-lived perennials are well established, but not the trees again yet. There's plenty of pockets of pinyon juniper, but I think they just were not affected by the particular burn that clearly ravaged this area many years ago. The horses like to come up here, that's for sure. Even got Eriodictyon. Look at that one. Someday later. More in a full flower, better condition. That's a pretty pathetic one. These aren't developed yet either. But yeah, very much a chaparral. Pretty hard to walk through at times, rather than the pinyon juniper forest that you'd expect at the primary stage of ecological succession here. Heading down to the spring now through pinyon juniper forest mixed with a good bit of chaparral of various previously described elements. One of them is Fraxinus anomala. It's a species of desert ash, and it's fruiting. These are called samaras, these fruits, meaning they're winged achenes. So one-seeded fruits that are hard with wings that help with dispersal via the wind. Very much like what is common in the maple genus Acer, which is a less common component of the chaparral here. I haven't run into one yet, although I have collected maples from these mountains before. Much more pleasant walking than the chaparral slopes and ridges up higher. And what a nice breeze. Just a beautiful day out here overall. This gully, the head gully of one of the head gullies of the spring below I'm heading to resupply. It's dry and open up here and well forested, and this is some of the most pleasant type of walking that exists in cross-country scenarios. Is kind of primary forest out west that doesn't densely grow too close together. It's mainly a function of precip. There's not enough rain out here for dense forests. So forests here are more like savannas, to accurately call them, in terms of lower to middle montane elevations at least. Higher up, especially outside of Nevada, some fairly dense boreal forests. Even in small parts of Nevada, there's a little bit of boreal forest. Mainly composed of spruce and fir, picea and abies, respectively. that gets a little denser and it's much wetter. So a certain time of year your feet will get wet, but it's still easy to travel cross country through the higher elevation forest too. But these lower elevation pine and juniper dominated forests, they definitely have more of a savanna character, savanna aspect, and we can just really easily, no trail, nothing, but it's not really a big deal even with a heavy pack. And we'll see how long the gully stays this way. It's obviously going to start producing water at some point, especially towards the bottom at the junction with the main canyon, which I'll then follow up a little bit and wrap my way around that high point we saw earlier. Haven't decided which direction yet, but it's the current plan. This pine forest is incredibly sterile as well in terms of biodiversity and understory life. I've only run into one new astragalus I collected earlier today to add to my checklist of this place so far, and it has to do with the fact that even though I haven't been to this gully or this drainage or these slopes before, it's pretty much just all the same species occurring over and over again. We got Pinus monophila forming the dominant forest component. No junipers here right now. Oh, there's one. So junipers, much less common. Quercus gambellii, it's fairly common. Quercus chrysolepis, which we've seen in the deeper Mojave quite a bit. Cercocarpus, Symphoricarpus, the Caprifoliaceae, Ribes, the Gracilariaceae, so gooseberries. And other than that, it's pretty much just the same suspects over and over again. Got Arctostaphylos, Fraxinus, and there's not much growing in the understory. We got Collinsia here and there. It's long gone, long toast. A few cryptanthas, penstemon once in a while. And it's really just the same things over and over again. Little annual gilias. All things I've collected before. Once in a while in an origeron, a fleabane. I'm just not running into new things today. I'm sure that'll change over the course of the day as ecosystems change lower down, get down to some perennial water. Maybe some of those aquatics more further developed than I've seen before. There'll be new stuff, just not here in the Pinus monophila forest. They're at the headwaters. More water beginning to appear out of the dryness. Nothing riparian yet though, in terms of plants. Gully's really green all of a sudden. Hope it's not too brutal. The willows are already thickening quite a bit, as you can see. Got vitis really brightening things up everywhere too. The water and comparative verdure has disappeared. It's back to an easy walk through a sandy, stony, barren pine juniper gully. Here's the main canyon, flowing water and everything. And just as soon as that, the rushing stream is back underground. Obviously, dealing with a different species and the predominant Pinus monophylla we've been seeing, due in part to the orange plated bark, the great stature, and if we could get closer, maybe we can over there. This is a fallen branch. It's a Pinus monophylla. That's how big the needles are. A few centimeters. Pinus ponderosa. Not only are they found in bundles of 2 rather than the 1 of Pinus monophylla, so the needles are born singly in P monophylla. So these are clustered in bundles of 2, sometimes 3, and they are longer than my finger, each needle. Here we have Acer grandidentatum, native species of maple. These canyons, probably a close relative of Acer glabrum, which it resembles. Near the west slope of the high point, which is in that direction somewhere, head up this more or less dry gully. There's a few algae patches here and there. And about to drop back over to the Mojave side of things. Some Delphinium scaposum appearing. In the understory of this Quercus gambellii and Acer grandidentatum. Some toasted Thermopsis back there. I think we'll look at Thermopsis some other day when they're not so toasted somewhere. Yeah, pretty dry, following mostly horse trails. Not a lot of annuals out. Some Phorecarpus, pretty common. And those Acers are getting quite enormous. As far as montane western United States native maples go, that is absolutely huge. Thought I'd be following a dry gully out this morning. Was chaparral choked higher up. Plenty of willows, cottonwoods, and opossum, other riparian taxa found throughout this pretty barren landscape. We're only at 5,000 feet here, so we should have been transitioning into Mojave habitat. I haven't seen that many desert taxa yet, so it's going to get hot for me pretty quickly. Rosa woodsii. It's going to get hot for me pretty quickly once near the car, but there won't be too much hot walking at that point. I've already seen a rattlesnake this morning, so I'm eager to get out of here. As you can see, now it's fairly dry. It keeps fading in and out of wet and dryness. The willows indicate that despite there not being a named spring here, that there's more or less perennial water, which is kind of cool. Monkey flowers everywhere, erythranthe.